Hey guys, my name is Bree and today I'm going to be doing a review over the super cool book, The Diabolic by J. Kristoff. That is not by J. Kristoff, that is by S.J. Kincaid. I am so sorry to the both of you and to everyone watching because that was a bonehead mistake. Anyways, this book follows our main character whose name is Nemesis, and Nemesis is a diabolic. And a diabolic is basically a scientifically, genetically mutated human thing because they're not robots, but they're like grown humans. And their job, there is a wicked glare on that, look at that. Basically, their job is to take care of whatever royal heir they are assigned to. Wait, let me back up. There is an empire, and within the empire there are different chairs of ruling, and each chair withholds a senator. Each senator, for the most part in this book, has an heir, and diabolics are created to protect these heirs. Oh yeah, by the way, this book takes place in space! So when I picked this up, I was like, oh wow, that's a super pretty cover. Oh, that's super cool, it's about bodyguards. And then I was like, space! What? In this book, one of our main characters' name is Sidonia, and she is the heir of the Galactic Senate. And Nemesis is her diabolic. And Nemesis is basically her best friend, even though she doesn't know what humanity is, so she can't really have a best friend. One day, the Emperor summons Sidonia to his imperial court, but Nemesis ends up going in her place. So that was my spoiler-free review / intro to the book. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend go pick it up if you're into sci-fi and fantasy. It's so entertaining. I could not put it down when I did read it. It was so good. But if you do not want to be spoiled, I would end this video right now, read this book, and then come back so we can discuss it together. So bye-bye, non-spoilery people. Bye-bye. Okay, there are so many things I want to talk about in this book that just like blow my mind every time I think about them. For starters, let's story time for a minute. So you know how this book is white? When I take my books with me to like school or something, I take the jackets off because I really enjoy the jackets and I don't want to mess them up. I take my book with me to my brother's soccer practice one time. And at the end of soccer practice, I was like carrying a bunch of stuff and I'm like walking down the sidewalk and I'm like, hey Chase, can you hold my book for me real quick? I have to get something out of my bag. And he was like, oh yeah, sure. So I hand him my book, and when I get it back, it's got, I don't even know if you can see it, it's got red fingerprints on the book and on the spine. He had red Gatorade on his hands and then refrained from telling me and then grabbed my book. Are you kidding me? You couldn't have been like, oh no, I have red Gatorade on my hands. I don't want to touch your white book. But anyways, this was such a cool read. I loved, you know, Nemesis's intro and how we get to know more about her and what it was like when she was like developing and growing up. I loved how we were like inside her head the entire time. I really liked the relationship that Nemesis had with Sidonia. Like when the etiquette marshal Sutera, she was like teaching the girls how to dance and everything. I loved how they were like kind of goofing off and then they kind of weren't. The fact that Nemesis can do like handstand push-ups is like kind of awesome. So, and I don't know how you guys felt about this, but like the matriarch, she like kind of reminded me of Queen Catherine from Reign on Netflix. I don't know if anyone else got that feeling, but she kind of has this like badassitry like feel to her, and I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, yes, she was kind of like a bitch at the beginning, but that she like got over that. And like the whole thing about how they had like med bods and fake youth and everything, like even though like a lot of those procedures and stuff sounded kind of painful to me, it actually like the concept of it sounded really cool. I thought it was interesting how this author basically just came up with that, and like she made it really detailed about how, you know, the med bots go in and they like go under your skin and add color and things like that, and they change your hair and put things in them. Like that'd be cool. Like that is one heck of a salon, is seeing one of those like med bot things. They're beauty bots, there we go. I did find it interesting the amount of use of drugs in this book. And it wasn't even like, oh, they're using drugs. It's like very classy. They do this weird opium liquid drug thing that they rub on their wrists and it like makes them feel high or something, and I was like, oh, this is a little different, but it definitely played a part in the end, you know, when like what's their faces were trying to like seduce Nemesis and like trying to rape her. Yeah, that was a little intense. But then Nemesis went in there, they were thinking she was Sidonia, and she like kicked their butts and fed them their own wine and everything. Like honestly, if that were me, I would probably just be like, okay, bye, and like turn them down and be that laughing stock of everybody. I wouldn't have the guts to like go in there at all. And then we met Tyrus, and I knew from like the minute we were introduced to Tyrus in the book that I was like, okay, that's gonna be the love interest. It's gonna be great because, I mean, like his red hair and his curls and like and he had freckles on his face, and I could see him in my mind, and it was just like, And like the Emperor was like a total jerk throughout the entire book. I was hoping he would have some sort of change of heart or whatever, but it was like, LOL, no. Oh yeah, speaking of that, like we thought the whole like bad guy was gonna be the Emperor. Turns out it's the Emperor's mom. It's Tyrus's grandmother. The part where we thought that Sidonia died, I was like freaking out. I wasn't like crying, I was more like pissed. Like, are you kidding me? Like, the Emperor just, like, blew up the ship. Why? And Nemesis basically, like, lost all self-control and tried to kill the Emperor, but then the other Diabolics got in the way, and they were like, oh, hey, you're not Sidonia. You're too strong to be a human. And they, like, pieced it together that she was a Diabolic. But that one was like, I'm not gonna kill you because I understand what you might have gone through, blah, blah, blah. Like, heartfelt moments between people that don't have feelings. That part where Nemesis first gets onto the chrysanthemum and the Emperor is like, pick one of your favorite servants. And she's like, that one. Her name is Leather. And he was like, oh, that gives me an idea. Give Leather this blade and have her skin herself. It's a good reason for why the butterfly has knives at the bottom of it, if you know what I'm saying. Oh yeah, and then shocker, like Sidonia is actually alive. Okay, I mean, this book just like flew by so fast. Like, I remember I was on page, I was like in the 300s and I was like, oh wait, I'm already like halfway done with the book. Cause like the intro, like this, like the stuff in the book just started happening so fast that I just like, I kept reading it. That's one of the reasons why this book was so good for me, was because I just got through it because it had such a quick start. So when Tyrus and Nemesis go down to this planet called Lumina, who is basically creating a rebel alliance against the Empire to try and talk them out of rebelling. You know, they like Tyrus and Nemesis have their first kiss and it's super cute. Oh, I loved it. It was such a like a heartfelt moment. But then it's like, it's also really cool because Nemesis is like, yo, feelings, what are these feelings? What are feelings? And it was super cool to see how like that was working out. Oh yeah, and then when Sidonia came back to life, those feelings were kind of tarnished, and it was like, oh yeah, I don't love Tyrus anymore. I love Sidonia because I was like made to love her. And I was like, why? You just had like a kiss with a boy, and the boy is like the Emperor's son. He's like a prince, and you could totally like get with that, but no, you gotta love Sidonia. I was kind of off the Sidonia train at this point if you hadn't already figured it out. Elantra, she was just a whole bunch of trouble. She was like your typical galactic mean girl, and I hated her the entire book, especially the part where she comes in and she's trying to screw up relationships and alliances and everything. She was just a whole bunch of no that did not need to be in there. So we end up killing Elantra, and it was really, really, really nice. So we get the scene where Tyrus has told his grandmother that he will marry Elantra to make her happy, and Elantra will be the new empress and Tyrus will be the new emperor, and to kind of rule under his grandmother so that way she can still be in control like she was with her son. Oh yeah, and then it turns out Sidonia like loved Nemesis. Liked Nemesis. Whoa, shock all the way. It was actually kind of cute because that's the first book that I've ever read like female homosexual feelings, and I thought it was cute. I thought it was well how it was kind of like discreetly woven in there, and then it was just like, oh, and by the way, I have feelings for you. And then of course, because of that, Tyrus is like, no, I'm not giving you to anybody else. I don't like to share my things. Like, she's not a thing. She's turning into a person. Thank you. But then like Tyrus ends up killing Sidonia, or at least that's what I believe. He says he didn't do it, but I feel like he actually had a whole bunch to do with Sidonia's death because he doesn't like sharing his things. Because, you know, Sidonia rubs that oil on herself and then she rubs the same oil on Nemesis, but because Nemesis is a Diabolic, she doesn't get injured as easily, and that oil was poisonous. So of course Sidonia dies. So we break things off with Tyrus because Nemesis thought that Tyrus did it, and I still think that Tyrus did it. But I don't know, we'll figure that out in books later to come. And he shoots grandmother Signa into a star, and it was awesome. Yeah, so overall the book wrapped up really nicely, even though it left you with this huge cliffhanger about like how is their relationship gonna turn out? Because I want it to be fixed, but if Tyrus killed Sidonia, like, on purpose, there are gonna be problems. Alright, those were my thoughts and opinions on the book The Diabolic by S.J. Kincaid. I really enjoyed this book. Thank you for listening to me rant. If you had any similar ideas or if you had any other ideas about this book or things that you wanted to comment, leave them in the comment box below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this book, if they were similar to mine, if they were different, what your opinions were, who your favorite characters were. Overall, I'm going to give this book like a 4 out of 5 stars. And the only reason I'm not giving it 5 is probably because, you know, like it had such a quick start that was like, what's going on? But I'm super excited to see where this series is going to, you know, like keep going and how it's going to unfold. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter, and I will leave those in the description box below. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!